Hello there, everybody. Yes, is this only on Periscope? Asks Dan. Hello, Dan. No, it's not, as it happens. It's also going to be on the icons down below, which is why I'm going to have to do a little bit of an introduction to myself and what we get up to on the show in a minute, because we've got a whole new audience, but we'll dive into that very shortly indeed. In 10, 9, 8, 7. Shall we just cut to the chase? I think we shall. Hello there. Right. Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name is Leonard Sultana. This is going out on multiple platforms. So it means that we've got a little bit of a different audience and possibly some people who don't know what I get up to. It also means that we'll hopefully have more eyeballs on the show moving forward. This is our 7th season. 7 years we've been doing this, which is so strange to me. It started out as a blog many moons ago, detailing my journey to San Diego Comic-Con. Back, it was 7 years, so we 2012 when we did our first season, and it was kind of intermittent. It wasn't every week. It certainly didn't run for the course of a year. It was very much a case of just diving in and kind of discovering San Diego Comic-Con and sharing it with the people that was willing to watch. Very quickly, my name is Leonard Sultana, and this is currently going out. Hello, cat. We have cats because I'm down here at the in the front room today because I wanted to kind of. Couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted to catch my wife Caroline, who has just gotten back from MCon in Worcester, and I wanted to try and get a bit of a review of the event from her. As it happens, we can't because she is well, number one, she's getting ready for a training course tomorrow. Number two, she was actually stuck on a table most of the day, which means that she wasn't able to actually see the rest of the show that was being held in Worcester. But it does mean that she had a great time tabling with David Yost, and it was something slightly different for her because I don't think she's actually done PAing with a guest. I think she's done some running around where she's actually run a interview area, and I think she's done some running around for some guests where she's gone to get water or bits and pieces. Actually doing that whole business of sitting next to a guest and talking to someone. I don't think she's actually done that before. So that was all kind of new. So there we go. Right. The question is, or the question has come along about, is this only on Periscope? No, it's not. We are now broadcasting on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, and Periscope, Twitter as well, which means it's a whole bunch of places that we can get comments from. The whole idea of Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, is a communication. It's about discussion about the news and the updates, what's happening in the world of Comic-Con. And certainly as we get closer to things like San Diego Comic-Con badge sales or hotel sales, we'll get into that, talk about exclusives. And just angle that a little bit further down. There we go. We're going to get into all of that. That's primarily what the show is about. But that's where you guys get involved. It's about a communication and talking and discussing what we're getting into. Now, usually, or when we have done these shows in the past, it has been purely on YouTube. And you can use the Q&A on YouTube to say hello and ask you questions. Indeed, we have ourselves Dan Berry, who's jumped in with a comment already. It's 6 seasons of the movie. I think we're way away from me holding a movie, but you get the general idea. But it also means that we can dive into all sorts of bits and pieces. I am going to be working on a background, which is being provided by green screen, except the green screen didn't show up. Thank you very much indeed, Amazon. Another reason why I'm downstairs. And also there's stuff that we're going to get into because as you've just seen with the way that we had some graphics on before, we're able to put some graphics up on the screen, which is great, which means we can have all sorts of stuff. We can have some news in there, and we can put animations, show some video clips and whatever, and we can also put it a little bit more big screen as well, so we can really get into showing you what's happening in the world of Comic-Con, especially as we're getting up to New York Comic-Con, Lakes, Thought Bubble, shows that I'm able to attend here in the UK, some MCM stuff as well, but we're going to get into that very shortly indeed. Dan Berry is reminding us that yes, we've got LA Comic-Con announcements, we've got New York Comic-Con announcements, Emerald City ticket sales in a few weeks. What I'm going to actually be talking about is San Diego Comic-Con ticket sales, because we do have the returning registration, which is imminent. Now, people have been trying to have a rough guess at when we could be seeing the badge sales for that. And yeah, it could be at any point really, because it's down to the timetable that's been put forward by Comic-Con International, especially when it comes to its child registration. But I believe that's pretty much all done and done, which means it's now just waiting on San Diego Comic-Con. I actually thought we were going to be seeing those badge sales possibly at the end of September, beginning of October. But it's now just down to when we could actually be seeing those. Yeah, it could be happening in the next week or so. Who knows? I am going to do my best to field as many of the questions and the comments on the chat as possible. And as you can appreciate, this is effectively a whole new show. We're starting technically from scratch, because certainly people on Twitch don't know what we get up to. People on Periscope may know from a couple of updates that I put up on the feed, but this is the first time people can actually watch it live on the channel. So Twitter and Periscope will be getting involved. Facebook as well. Now, just a quick update on the reasoning why some people on my feed are seeing this and wondering what the hell it's doing. If you're not interested in Comic-Cons, you can turn off right now, because this will be of no interest to you whatsoever. It is all about Talkin Con, and it's about comic conventions. Now, the idea is that I would like to ideally stream this to the An Englishman in San Diego Facebook page, or the Convention Collective. I suspect the Englishman in San Diego page will be the better direction for it. As it happens, Restream, which is the software that I use to send out the various feeds to various locations, unfortunately, you have to pay the premium service, which clocks in at something like $20 a month. To stream to a Facebook page. You can stream to a personal feed, which I am doing. Hello, Mum. But yeah, it's just going to be a case of the moment I get the chance to raise enough funds, that's where I will then transfer the Facebook feed over to the Facebook page and create an event around it, and we'll kind of get into all of that. It'll go straight to the Facebook page. And then people who know what the show is all about, it's not just kind of like thrown in everybody's faces. That kind of like leads me on to, yeah, something else that we do, or I do suggest here on the channel, and on every single thing that I try and do, which is our Patreon page. It's a way for people to support the channel and support what we do. It's a way for people to give back if possible, but not necessarily without anything going in your direction as well. There's not only the website, the Convention Collective, there's my contributions to that page, which is theconventioncollective.com/An Englishman in San Diego. There's this podcast, which we do every Sunday, but we also try and put some exclusive stuff up there as well. Dan Berry, Samantha maybe, and a couple of others are people on the ground at various North American conventions. I cover the stuff here in the UK, which means we're able to bring you interviews from those particular shows, videos, bits and pieces, and try and share them as best we can. If it's something that I consider to be a premium piece of content, something that we want to share with our Patreon supporters first, we do that, and we put that up on the site either for 2 weeks or to a month, but we never not make it free at the end of the line. which means all the interviews and all the bits and pieces that we put up on the Patreon page, it's more or less just like a holding page, a hosting page for that content, which means everyone who visits the Patreon page can get to see the great content that we put up. But if you are a Patreon supporter, you do get to see some stuff a little bit early. Support, I believe, starts at $2. You can just put in $2 and kind of like walk away, or you can be a regular supporter of the Hangout and all the bits and pieces that we do. But basically, every penny that we raise on the Patreon page goes straight into maintaining the website, maintaining our licenses and the things that we do. There's some goals, there's some stuff that we want to try and achieve. For example, there's some features on the website that I'd like to try and get done, which I've been quoted a large sum of money for. And that's what I'm going to be kind of utilizing some of the Patreon money to do that. But you get the idea. It's all a case of if you can help, if you can throw some coins in the pot, it is very much appreciated. Into the Blue Mister. Had some notifications from both the Facebook feed and YouTube. Clicked on both at the same time. Felt like I'd gone into the future because of the sync difference. Yeah, it can be a little bit interesting. And if you are watching this on Facebook, and if you're watching this on Twitch, which is unlikely, but who knows? Yeah, let us know if you're watching, and yeah, just let us know where you're watching from, I suppose. Let's have a look. Andrew English, I forgot to forward you cosplay pictures from Cardiff Film and Comic Con. Well, let's have them in and let's have a look, and we'll share them out. Here we go. Michael P is suggesting that September 28th is going to be the date for the pre-reg. It's possible. It's very possible. Okay. So let's just give you a bit of an update if you've not seen this show before. Something that we it basically started out as something that would run as the lead up to San Diego Comic Con, and a little bit intermittent as well, maybe once a Sunday, so like every couple of weeks. Then it turned into every week. And this was down to the insistence of a previous co-host and very good friend, Alyssa Franks from the Friends of Comic Con Forum. Admittedly, I haven't spoken to Alyssa for a while because she's been very busy. She moved to San Diego and she went back to school, learning coding, I believe, and engineering, computer engineering, and she's been very tied up with that. She is just a superstar. She's a rock star and a force of nature. So when she turned around and said that you really should be doing the show on a weekly basis, I kind of went, yes, you're probably right. So we went and did this every week, and then she insisted that once we reached San Diego Comic Con, to take a week or so off and then just roll straight back into it, because there was plenty of conventions out there that we could cover. And that's exactly what we've done over certainly the last 2-3 years. We've had some great interview guests. If you do check out an Englishman in San Diego channel, if this is your first time visiting and seeing what we do, then you'll have seen we've had some really, really impressive guests. Some surprises, which has been always entertaining. But it's always been a way for us to bring you not only the latest updates, but also some really cool people that are involved in the Comic-Con landscape. The problem that always seemed to be, and it was back when they introduced the feature and when we were first able to do the Hangouts on Google and on YouTube, was that we were kind of beholden to the way that Google Plus and YouTube worked. It was fiddly, it was awkward, it was temperamental, and as many people who watched where we had dropped guests and we had no features at all, and we had no way of kind of really nailing down how people could join the Hangouts, and it was all very fiddly. It started out that you had to have a YouTube channel, then it worked out that you had to have a certain browser and you had to have it reinstalled and uninstalled. It was just a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. The great thing about the feature, the setup that we've got now for season 7, we just have a link and people can just join at any point. You can join on mobile and you can join on tablet. You can join on any way you can. You just give you a link. You just have a camera in front of you, which means one of the other things that we do on the Hangouts, which I really enjoy, is our live convention reports. It means that we can get more people involved and they can take part by sharing us their sights and sounds of their convention experience. Because of the way and the time that we do this show, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, it is usually anchored around the 6 GMT, by the way, which is just down to my timetable, I'm afraid. It did mean that 10 o'clock in the morning, West Coast, say we had a Comic-Con that was happening there, we could kind of get the morning vibe, people just going in for the Sunday. When it came to the East Coast shows, it meant that we were able to catch as many of those mid-afternoons as well if people weren't in a panel. This means that we're able to get more people involved. And if you are interested in taking part, if you're going to a convention in the near future, if you want to show us what you are getting up to at that show, do drop us a line on Englishman SDCC on any of the social medias. And let us know where you're watching from, because we would like to get you involved and show people what the convention experience. Andrew Dickinson, can you run this on a phone as YouTube has blocked it on their own website? Does this get around it? Yes, it does, because it works on a browser, which means if you are wanting to take part, all you need is a browser window. There's no YouTube involved. I do all the hosting. It's all done via this service that I'm currently running. So that's rather cool. So there we go. The other thing as well, let me just bring this graphic up as well, because the other thing that we also do, like I say, we do interviews. We've had some fantastic guests in the past. We have had David Glanzer from San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to try and get him back on for this season. We've had people like Nicola Love from Glasgow Comic-Con here in the UK and Scotland as well. We've also had Lee Wallace from MCon. We've had Shane Chebsey from the ICE conventions. We've had some really great shows. Dan Berry saying, please check my... you're just going to distract me with Twitter messages now, aren't you? Because, yeah, make you post on Facebook public so I can share it. I'd love to, but I'd have to kind of dive into my Facebook page and, you know, it's the way it works. I thought it was public, but there we go. I think the only way that I'd be able to do that, Dan, is if I actually then had to restart the whole stream. I don't think I can. But I will try. I'll see what I can do. There, I've made it public, so you can kind of share from there. So there we go. Now, admittedly, I'm seeing one or two comments on the Facebook page saying that, which I haven't seen. So, for example, Andrew Dixon, new hat. It's the new hat from the last San Diego Comic-Con. I happen to like this design. I know not a great deal of people like the kind of the mid-1970s sort of like hippie logo, but I quite like it. Sean Thomas is watching on Facebook, and Andrew Lewis. Does anyone else hear an alarm going off? Not here, so I can't help you, I'm afraid. But that was where I was hoping that we were going to be getting the streams. It's telling me that it won't show streams from certain channels, but it looks like we'll be getting comments from Facebook and Periscope, which means we'll be watching them from Twitter. So there we go. Right, so as for the interviews, we do have a fair number of interviews which are lined up for this year. The reason why I didn't promote this show as heavily as I might have expected, or you might have not expected, is purely because I wanted this to be a soft open, a kind of like a reintroduction to what we do at Talkin Con. Next week, we go in hard. We are having our first guest, which is going to be the event director of New York Comic Con, as we do a preview of that show. It's exciting, if anything, because within the last, oh, hello, a little bit of a thing there. Within the last, let's think, 3 days, that's when it kind of became possible for me to attend New York Comic Con, and that's what I'll be doing. So you may have noticed that my voice volume has dropped a little bit. That's because Caroline is a little bit upset with me because I'm not going with her. It's my first trip to the East Coast. It's my first trip to New York, and I'm not taking the missus. You can tell I'm not popular right now. The reason why I wanted to go is because intermittent beeping. I can't think where that sound is coming from, I'm afraid. So I'm afraid I cannot help you. I'll just turn that off. That might help. I don't know. But let me know if that beeping continues. I don't know where that's coming from. Right. Yeah. So New York Comic Con, as it happens, it's the same weekend as MCon Derby, which Caroline is taking part in as part of the crew for that particular show. She is someone who's committed. She's somebody that when she says she's going to do something, she does it. New York Comic Con is a different beast to something like San Diego. To travel over to San Diego and the West Coast, it's a hell of a commitment. It's a long journey. It's rather expensive to stay there, and it means that we end up using it also as a holiday. So we either stay the week before, the week after, or as we have done in recent years, both of them and a little bit further. We have really gone out to make San Diego a holiday. And you'll also find that with many comic creators as well, especially coming from Europe and the UK, that there is a commitment and a half to go to San Diego Comic Con and to any of the West Coast shows, which is why you don't see that many UK attendees making that journey unless they are invited and they are paid by their publishers, by their various elements to get them over to the West Coast. East Coast, it's a lot easier. It speaks volumes that it's actually cheaper for me to fly to New York than it is for me to get a train from Leeds to Cardiff and back on a decent train, or even sort of I think traveling to London, it's something like 80-90 quid. To fly to New York, it's only costing me 320 quid. It's not actually costing me a great deal, and I'm spending time with a friend, which means they're putting me up. This is going to be very much a work trip. This will be the 4th year that I've been invited to New York Comic Con, and if I don't go, they're going to stop inviting me. So that's the idea. So there you go. Andrew English, Leonard, I'd better not look under your seat. I'm not entirely sure. Right. I think everyone's suspecting that there's a bomb going off, or there is going to be a bomb going off. That I hope not. That's not the case. But there we go. Right. So the way that the show is going to work, when we had Alyssa as our co-host, it was great to have someone to bounce off. However, there did have an element of ownership, and I wanted to reclaim the show for myself. It is an Englishman in San Diego, after all. So I wanted to make myself the primary host. Alyssa understood that, and she also went on to go back to school, so she was going to be too busy anyway. So that's how that panned out. However, the couple of things that Alyssa introduced, which was informative to the whole show process, was the way that we were interacting with our guests, and also the length of time with the actual show. She did encourage us to keep going and going and going, and which meant some of our shows did end up lasting quite some time, into the hour and a half, 2 hour range, which quite frankly is way too long. People's attention span, you get lost. The only time that I agreed with those kind of lengths of shows was when we were getting deep dive into some topics, such as the schedules, such as exclusives, and things of that nature. So I understood that. But what I wanted to do from season 6 is to make the show a little bit more condensed. So we made it an hour show, and that's what the shows will be going forward. They will 60 minutes, done and dusted. We're also going to be doing our best to split the show up into 2 halves. So it's going to be an interview at the beginning of the show. Like I say, next week it's going to be with the event director of New York Comic Con. And then we're going to get into all the news and all the stuff that we can get into when it comes to the news headlines of the week. We are going to be bringing you images, and if, say, for example, there are some new exclusives that have been announced, we're going to get into all of those. So that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah, that's the basic structure of the show. And that's how it will be moving forward. It's going to be a tight 60 minutes, which means it's going to be from 6 o'clock till 7 every Sunday. What I am going to be doing, however, is for the Patreon page, and we kind of started doing this last season, but things kind of got a little bit messy, so we weren't able to follow through. We are going to be doing a after show, and it's going to be 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes of me ranting to camera. But certainly being a little bit more forthright and being a little bit more opinionated. So it's going to be my opinion piece, as it were, which means if you do want to take part, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, we'll put the live stream up onto that. And yeah, it's going to be something a little bit more Englishman in San Diego uncut, if that makes sense. So there we go. Michael P, your interview with David G should be as long as necessary. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, it's he's somebody that we'll gladly have on at any point. So hopefully we'll be having him back as soon as possible. So there we go. This is, like I say, just going to be a soft open, just to kind of like introduce what we're going to be getting up to. Next week, hopefully, this will have a little bit more of a studio-ish look, because I'll be having the new banners and a little bit more graphics up on there. We'll have all the animation sorted out as well. Thank you very much indeed to Sony Vegas for crashing on me this week on a regular basis. But at least you get the idea of what we're going to get up to. So if this is your first... Yes, better. If this is your first time checking in with us at Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, number one, thank you very much indeed for dropping by, and I appreciate that we may be getting some people going, what on earth is this all about, from the likes of Facebook and certainly Periscope. But I do want to try and build up my audience on various other platforms as well. I definitely want to build up the platform on Periscope, because that's an audience which is immediate. It's very much a live experience, and also we can get donations with various likes and super hearts that you can get on that particular platform, and via Twitch as well. You can also do donations, which I'm going to do. I want to try and do my best to try and get more support, so we can do more and we can bring you more stuff. That's the idea. So there we go. We've got Michael P, who's just giving me lots of advice when it comes to New York Comic Con. The New York street pizza slices are delicious and cheap. I am on such a budget, it's going to be street pizzas and Subway. That's my weekend. I've got to try bagels and coffee too. If anyone is watching this for the first time, or if anyone's been watching this before, they should know coffee is my kryptonite. I do not do coffee. I do tea. This is a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. That's just it's just the way it is. I drink tea, which is why I've been reading the Twitter feeds of Gail Simone quite with some amusement over this week, because Yorkshire Tea just dumped a lot of their stock in a box and sent it to her, and she's been reviewing tea, which has been rather amusing to watch. So there we go. Let's have a look at this. Soft open, pizza and cake, hard open next week, raw vegetables and sit-ups, go. No. I'll do my best to lose a little bit of weight. And yes, we are going to do our best to get Aaron Neighbours on the show as well, because we are big fans of SDCC Fit, or ConFit now. So looking forward to getting them involved. Yeah, it's going to be a show where we can do a little bit more. It's just a case now of spreading the word, which means if you know anyone who is on Twitch, if you know anyone who's on Facebook, if you know and would be interested in talking about cons and talking about upcoming conventions and convention reviews and interviews, tell them, let them know, share this post with them or this video with them, let them know that it's what we're doing. Like I say, I think the Facebook one is going to be slightly awkward for now, because it is going to be on my personal page. And I think I've got something like a third of just personal friends who some of them may know from school, and they barely know who I am now in 2019. I've got a bunch of DJ friends who I DJ, yes, but I don't really mingle with that world anymore. It's something that I have kind of like left and moved on from since I've started going to more conventions, and that's more of what I do. And then there's the Comic-Con crowd, and also convention artists in the comic industry, and one or two industry types as well. So I understand that it's going to be a percentage of my followers and my friends on my Facebook page, which is going to be a little bit more lost, as it were, about what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is really strange. Jim Brown's comment has come through from Facebook. He would like to say nice pussy, because he's a classy bugger. But yes, this is Bags. And yeah, hello Bags. And we got Buzz down here. Both of these two are sparked out because they've been out all day. But there we go. Right. I think I can kind of do this for about maybe 5 minutes for questions. If there's any questions anybody wants to ask, now's the time. Are you going to come through and say hello?
No.
You just to say hello?
No.
Come and say hello.
No.
All right, sod you then. Okay. Have you had a good weekend?
I have, yes.
How was David Yost?
An absolute pleasure.
An absolute pleasure. There you go. That's all I'm going to get from you about that, isn't it?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yay! So yeah, that's Caroline does jump in on the Hangout when she has stuff to say, and she says it a lot and really lets you know. You do. You make your opinion known, and that's great. For example, what's your opinion on me going to New York Comic Con?
I hate you.
And there you go.
For the record, I got called crazy.
Why did you get called crazy? What, because you're doing MCon Derby instead of...
Because, yeah, I turned around and said I had a choice between MCon Derby and going to New York Comic Con. And because I'd already said yes to MCon Derby, I said no to New York Comic Con.
Nearly got it. Nearly got it. Right.
Don't be mean.
I'm not going to be mean. So there we go. Right. So that's Caroline, and she's my wife, and you will spot her on various feeds. And you can follow her on Twitter if you like, which is Kaz Sultana on Twitter, if you want to talk about me behind my back.
Or be completely bored, because I very rarely post.
You very rarely to it, yeah. Go on Facebook, she's always on that. Yeah. So any questions, any comments that you want to put forward, anything that I really need to be paying attention to, because any of the conventions that I really need to be going to. Just to give you an idea of the schedule of what I've got coming up, I am going to New York. The next con after that, which I believe is the weekend after, is the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, which is in Kendall. Now, I am DJing on the Saturday night. DJing is what I do for a living. It pays the bills. But Sunday, I am going to be heading up to Kendall to see as much as I possibly can in a day. I've done it before where I've just kind of really blitzed it in one sitting, but I'm going to do what I can to see as much of Kendall as I possibly can. I think the next one after that is Thought Bubble, which is taking place in Harrogate. That I am going to be able to spend a little bit more time at. It's effectively my local convention. It was certainly my local con when it was based in Leeds. It's a little bit further afield now. It's going to be held in Harrogate, but it means that I can cover a little bit more. And it is the biggest comics-led convention here in the UK. So it's a show that I'm a big supporter of, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that show gets up to this time round. Indeed, Andrew Dickinson must buy Thought Bubble tickets. Tell me about it. That's kind of like on my equation, so it's on the way. So there we go. We just go into the blue, Mr. Quick shout out to Shane Chebsey, the Ice Guy, who whenever he sells a comic book, sketches a character on the mailer. Top fella. He's a top guy, and hopefully we'll be getting Shane back on at some point in the season, running up to San Diego Comic-Con in July, because we do have, while we have had Comixolopia this year, which was the show that the festival that he ran in Shrewsbury. That's going to be working as every 2 years. So Comixolopia will next be appearing in 2021. But next year, there's all the ICE shows, and he's coming back to Birmingham. I think he's coming back to Brighton as well. So yes, we will, fingers crossed, be having Shane on the Hangout as well. Directly after that will be, fingers crossed, MCM in London. And I say fingers crossed because at this point it's still a little bit up in the air as to what my involvement will be. At the end, or in October 2018, I took part in the MCM show as a panel host, and had a great time talking to some frankly amazing people. Tess Fowler, John Romita Jr., Frank Quitely, Frank Miller, Chris Claremont. It really was an amazing weekend. However, since then, MCM have changed the way that they actually panel host and do their content, drawing more from the guests that are there already, and not necessarily requiring a panel host. However, fingers crossed, should find out in the next 24 hours if I'm going to be participating this year. If I'm not invited, unfortunately, it looks like I might not be attending MCM Comic-Con, purely because it's all about funds. I need to kind of make it a little bit worth my while. It's a bit of a trek to head down to London to kind of wander around and see other people panel hosting. And not only that, but I think I also have possible DJ jobs that I can do, and I can then fold back into the site and the content. So that's where we are with that. And then it's all the shows in 2020, which I haven't even really thought about yet. But yeah, we'll try and get as many of those covered as we can. And of course, it is barreling along to San Diego Comic-Con 2020, which, are we going to San Diego next year?
Yes.
That's a yes. So yeah, I know at the moment my Twitter name is An Englishman in New York. That's going to get changed back. It's An Englishman in San Diego. So there you go. Dan Berry is telling us about the shows that we are going to be attending in that regard. LA Comic-Con, Designer Con, Nostalgia Con, Nerd Expo, the San Diego International Film Festival, SD Who Con, and ToonCon. Now that ToonCon one interests me because it's a brand new show. So I'm interested to see what gets featured there. So that's an interesting show. I really like the idea of covering as many new conventions as we can as well. Dan did a cracking job of attending a show a week or so back, which was brand new to the both of us. It was Light Box Expo, which was geared more towards illustrators, professional art designers. So, for example, graphic artists for films, professional sculptors, not so much comic artists, although some were represented. It was more professional illustrators. It was an interesting show, and the stuff that Dan brought us from that was fascinating. And so hopefully I'm going to try and cover as many of the new shows, because we want to share these shows with you, that you may want to attend them yourself. That's kind of the idea of the show. That's the kind of the idea of Talkin Con. It's to get you excited about attending these shows as well. I don't want it to be fun with flags, but at the end of the day, it is going to be talking to camera. It's just a case of trying to get as many interviews as we possibly can. We do have a whole bunch of people that are lined up and very interested in talking to us. But like I say, the first one for next week is the event director of New York Comic Con, bringing us a little bit of a preview of what people can expect from the show. I'll be asking as many questions as I possibly can as well myself. So there you go. I think the only thing I can leave you with is that reminder that we are now on a whole bunch of new platforms. Facebook, I'll get as many comments as I can from the Facebook stream, but at the end of the day, it's a case of yeah, it's a public stream on my Facebook page, so anybody can jump in on this, but hopefully you'll understand that it is going to be about Comic-Cons, so hopefully the audience is there from my friends. But if you do want to share it, do share with somebody who's into comic conventions and is heading to a convention perhaps and wants to get involved. Yeah, that's certainly one channel, one avenue. Periscope is that new platform as well. People will be seeing this straight onto their Twitter stream now, which is great. Now it's just a case of building up that audience. At the end of the day, I've got just over 6,000 followers now, which still blows my mind. So thank you very much indeed for following. But let's see if we can continue building that audience. Twitch is an unknown quantity. I have no idea how that's going to go. I would like to build up a bit more of a Twitch audience, but this I think would be my first broadcast on Twitch. Hello there, empty void. So let's see if we can kind of build up an audience and that. Spread the word. That's all we can do. And let's see what we can do in terms of getting as many people talking and getting involved in the conversation as we move forward and head full steam towards San Diego Comic-Con 2020. Right, I think that's enough of me yammering on. We're not going to be doing the after show this episode because Caroline's just got back from Worcester and I want to spend a bit of time with her. And also, it's been a rather long weekend, so let's just take it nice and slow. Next weekend, however, we will be going into full episode mode. All the news and updates, our interview with the event director from New York Comic Con, and directly after the show, around 7:10, it's our after show only for Patreon supporters, where I tell Comic Con organizers what I actually feel about them behind a Patreon paywall. So there we go. Take care. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Any comments, any questions, any suggestions about what we could do with the show, jump in on the my Facebook feed or on my Twitter and tell me. Let me know because heaven knows, you know, I could do with any suggestions to improve the quality and what we do with the show. Take care, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.